People like to talk, don't they? Oh, they'll talk about everything. The weather, the news, what they had for lunch. Useless little noises filling up the air, never really saying anything. But when it comes to the things that matter, the things that shake the very ground beneath their feet, people always think they need a script. A perfect little set of words, polished and practiced, like they're auditioning for some big role. They stand there all stiff and nervous, thinking, what if I say it wrong? What if I mess up? Oh, it's adorable, really. As if the one listening is sitting up there with a red pen marking their mistakes, grading them like a school teacher. But that's not how this works. That's never how this worked. See, people have been fed this idea that talking to the Holy Spirit is some grand, complicated ritual, that they need fancy words, some poetic masterpiece to make sure they're worthy of being heard. They think they need to clean themselves up first, get their act together, be on their best behavior. Oh, and the voice, can't forget the voice. They lower it, soften it, make it sound all holy, da-da-da, like they're trying to impress someone who already knows exactly who they are when no one's looking. But here's the secret. None of that matters. The words, the tone, the presentation, useless. What matters is the heart behind them. The raw, messy, real truth spilling out of a person when they finally stop pretending. Because the Holy Spirit doesn't care about fancy. It doesn't care about perfect. It cares about authentic. Ever notice how kids talk? How they just say whatever is on their mind, no filter, no hesitation. They don't worry about sounding smart or proper or important. They just speak. They laugh, they cry, they ask for what they want without shame, without fear. And that's the kind of conversation that gets heard. Not the rehearsed speeches, not the nervous, overthought prayers. Just real words straight from the gut. But people, oh, they complicate things. They think if they don't say the right words, nothing will happen. They think if they don't structure their sentences just so, if they don't use the correct phrases, then maybe, just maybe, the Holy Spirit will shrug and say, not good enough. What a joke. The power isn't in the words. It's in the intention. It's in the connection. Ever see someone crying, completely shattered, and all they can whisper is, help? Just that one little word, barely making it out of their throat. You think that doesn't get heard? You think that doesn't shake something in the unseen? Because that one broken, desperate word carries more weight than 1,000 well-crafted, emotionless sentences. But most people don't get that. They keep their walls up. They recite, they perform, they play the part, and then they wonder why nothing changes, why it still feels empty, why they still feel alone. Oh, but the ones who figure it out, the ones who just drop the act, they talk like they would to a friend. No filters, no performance, just raw, open honesty. They talk when they're angry, they talk when they're lost. They talk when they're laughing like a maniac because they can't believe what just happened. They talk when they don't even have the words, just a sigh, just a groan, just something real. And you know what happens? They get a response. Maybe not in words, maybe not in some big dramatic way, but something shifts. Something stirs inside them, a feeling, a pull, a knowing. Like suddenly, they're not alone, because they never were, not really. They were just too busy performing to notice. But that's the trick, isn't it? Stop the performance, stop the scripts, just speak. People think talking is enough. They ramble, they repeat themselves, they throw words into the air like confetti, hoping something sticks. They talk and talk and talk, but do they ever stop to listen? No. Because that would be too real, wouldn't it? That would be stepping into the unknown, into the silence, into the part where things get a little unsettling. See, when most people pray, they treat it like a voicemail. They dial in, leave their message, and hang up before they have to hear the response. They say what they want to say, not what they need to say, and then they move on, acting like they checked something off their to-do list. Done, spoke to the Holy Spirit today. What's next? But what if the other end of the line isn't just sitting there waiting for them to shut up? What if there's a reply, a whisper, a shift? What if the silence isn't actually silent at all? But no, that makes people nervous, because hearing means understanding, and understanding means change, and change, well, change is terrifying. It's easier to talk than to listen. It's safer. It lets people keep pretending they're in control, because if they really listened, if they actually stopped to hear the voice in the stillness, they might not like what it said. It might tell them something uncomfortable, something they weren't ready for, something that wrecks their little plans and rearranges everything they thought they knew. And the Holy Spirit? Oh, it doesn't yell. It doesn't argue. It doesn't compete for attention. It speaks in the spaces between words, in the quiet between thoughts, in the moments when everything else fades. But most people never notice, because they fill every silence with noise, with distractions, with their own voice talking over the very thing they're trying to hear. And that's the funniest part. They beg for answers. They cry out for direction. They plead for a sign. But when it comes, when the answer is sitting right there, whispering in a way only their soul can understand, they ignore it. They brush it off as a random thought. They push it away because it's not the answer they wanted. They were expecting a grand spectacle, a flashing light, a voice from the cloud saying, "Yes, my child, here is exactly what you asked for." But instead, they get a gentle nudge, a quiet knowing, and they dismiss it just like that. Because people like big things, loud things, things that shake the ground and demand attention. But the Holy Spirit doesn't play that game. It's not desperate for an audience. It speaks, and it's up to you to notice, to listen, to be still long enough to catch it before it slips past. But listening, that takes practice. It takes patience. It takes shutting up long enough to realize that not every silence needs to be filled. That sometimes the most powerful moments aren't in the speaking, but in the waiting. The quiet space where the world fades and something deeper, something greater starts to stir. And those who learn to listen, they change. They walk differently. They see things others don't. They hear what others miss, because they know the secret. The conversation was never meant to be one-sided. Honesty. What a funny little concept. Everybody claims to want it, to value it, to live by it, but when it's time to actually be honest, oh, that's when things get messy. That's when the masks come on, the filters go up, and suddenly people start rehearsing their words like they're on trial and talking to the Holy Spirit. Oh, it's no different. People think they have to clean themselves up first, get their act together before they step into that conversation. They think they have to be presentable, like they're showing up for some divine job interview. They hold back the ugly parts, the doubts, the rage, the fear, because they think, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I admit how I really feel and it's not good enough? So they put on their best holy voice, say all the right phrases, and act like they've got it all under control. But here's the part that makes me laugh. The one they're talking to, he already knows every thought, every feeling, every ugly, twisted little mess buried deep inside. So tell me, what's the point of lying to someone who already sees right through you? What's the point of pretending to be strong when you're breaking? What's the point of smiling when you're screaming inside? But that's the trick, isn't it? People think they can fake their way through it. They think if they say the right things, avoid the hard truths, and keep it all nice and respectable, everything will be fine. But that's not how this works. That's not how this has ever worked. Because the Holy Spirit doesn't want a performance. It doesn't want a scripted prayer or a well-rehearsed monologue. It wants real no. It wants raw. It wants the truth, no matter how ugly, how broken, how imperfect. Ever see someone in complete desperation? Not the kind where they're holding it together, not the kind where they're carefully choosing their words, but the kind where they finally snap, where they fall to their knees, fists clenched, voice shaking, and they just let it out. That moment when they stop pretending, stop filtering, stop lying. Oh, that's when something shifts. That's when things start moving, because for the first time, they're being real. But most people never get there. They stay stuck in the act, trapped in the performance, afraid to let the truth come out. And what a shame, really, because the moment they actually say it, whatever it is, the moment they stop holding back and spill every last bit of what's really going on inside them, that's the moment they get an answer. Not before, not when they're playing pretend, but when they finally crack open and speak the words they were too afraid to say. Oh, but that's scary, isn't it? Because real honesty, it's dangerous. It means exposing the things no one else sees. It means admitting the doubts, the anger, the confusion, the weakness. It means saying, I don't understand. I don't know what to do. I don't even know if I believe. And that's terrifying, because what if the answer that comes back isn't what they want to hear? But here's the thing. The truth, the real truth, was never meant to be pretty. It was never meant to be polished and dressed up in fancy words. It was meant to be spoken, no matter how it sounds, no matter how messy it gets, because that's the moment the Holy Spirit actually moves. Not in the fake, filtered words, but in the real ones, the broken, unedited, unfiltered words, the ones that spill out when there's nothing left to lose. People have this funny little habit. They pray, they ask, they plead, and then they go right back to doing exactly what they were doing before, like clockwork, like trained little machines stuck in their routines. They say, God, show me the way, give me wisdom, speak to me. And the moment a thought pops into their head, a whisper, an answer, a tiny nudge in a direction they didn't expect, what do? They ignore it, brush it off, act like it was just their imagination. Because let's be honest, people don't really want answers. No. They want confirmations. I don't want to hear something new, something uncomfortable, something that might require them to change. They want a stamp of approval on what they already decided to do. They want God to say, yes, my child, you're absolutely right. Keep going. Do exactly what you were planning all along. That's what they're really after. Because if the Holy Spirit actually speaks, if he actually says something that disrupts their little blueprint, well, that's a problem, isn't it? That means they have to do something about it. And that's where the real fear kicks in. So they pretend they didn't hear it. They distract themselves. They drown it out with noise, with entertainment, with excuses. Maybe I was just overthinking. Maybe that wasn't really God. Maybe I just need another sign. Another sign. That's a classic. They love that one. They want a second opinion, a third, a fourth. Because deep down they're hoping to get a different answer. Something easier. Something that doesn't demand much. But here's the thing. When the Holy Spirit speaks, it's not a suggestion. It's not an if you feel like it kind of thing. It's a move now or stay stuck choice. But most people, they hesitate, they stall, they weigh the pros and cons as if this is some kind of negotiation. But faith isn't a debate, it's a leap. It's stepping out when nothing makes sense, when nothing is guaranteed, when there is no backup plan, and people hate that. They want security, certainty, a nicely paved road where they can see every turn before they take a step. But the Holy Spirit, he doesn't work like that. He says, go. And that's it. No blueprint, no 5-step guide, just one word, go. And if you wait too long, the moment passes, the door closes, the opportunity slips right through your fingers, and then what do people do? They turn around and blame God. They say, why didn't you help me? Why didn't you show me the way? And he just stands there watching, knowing he did. They just didn't listen. See, the truth is, the Holy Spirit doesn't argue. He doesn't fight for your attention. He doesn't repeat himself over and over like some desperate salesman. He speaks, and then he waits. If you ignore him, if you hesitate, if you drown it out with your own doubts, well, that's on you. Because the window doesn't stay open forever. The chance doesn't wait around until you feel ready. It's either you trust or you don't. But people love to complicate things. They think obedience has to feel good, that it has to make sense. But faith isn't about feelings. It's about movement. And most people, they never move. They stay stuck in their cycles, trapped in their fears, waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. And that's the real tragedy. They miss out on what was already theirs. Not because it wasn't given, not because God was silent, but because they refused to listen. People love control. They need it. They cling to it like a drowning man holding onto a rock, as if it's going to save them. They plan, they strategize, they calculate every little move, thinking, if I just do this right, if I just stay ahead, nothing can go wrong. But the funny thing about control, it's an illusion. A beautiful, delicate little lie people tell themselves to feel safe. But safe from what? Exactly. From chaos? From uncertainty? From the unknown? But here's the twist. Control doesn't stop any of that. It just makes the fall harder when it finally happens. And it will happen, because sooner or later life reminds you just how little power you really have. A phone call in the middle of the night, a sudden betrayal, a door slamming shut in your face when you least expect it, and that's when the panic sets in. That's when people start clawing at the air, scrambling to put the pieces back together. No, this wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't how I planned it. But that's the joke, isn't it? Life doesn't follow your plans. Life doesn't care how carefully you arranged everything. But here's where it gets interesting. Some people, they never learn. They go right back to their little spreadsheets, their 5-year plans, their if I do this, then thus will happen logic, like puppets dancing on invisible strings. And then, when it all crumbles again, they act shocked. They shake their fists at the sky, asking, "Why, God? Why did you let this happen?" As if they weren't the ones who refused to let go in the first place. As if they didn't grip the wheel so tight their knuckles turned white. Refusing to loosen their hold even when it was clear they were heading straight for a wall. See, that's the problem with control. It blinds you. It makes you think you know better, that if you just push a little harder, if you just force it, everything will work out the way you want. But that's not trust. That's fear wearing a clever disguise. It's the fear of losing, the fear of falling, the fear of admitting you were never in control to begin with. But here's the part that really gets me. Some people, just a few, figure it out. They hit rock bottom one too many times. They get tired of fighting, tired of breaking, tired of pretending to be the mastermind of a game they were never meant to control, and finally, they let go. Not because they have all the answers, not because they suddenly feel brave, but because they have nothing left to hold on to, and that's when something shifts. That's when, for the first time, they actually trust, not in their own plans, not in their own strength, but in something bigger. And suddenly the weight they carried for years, the one that crushed them under its pressure, it's gone. Not because the situation changed, not because they got what they wanted, but because they surrendered. Because they stopped trying to be the god of their own little universe. But most people, they never get there. They never loosen their grip. They keep fighting, keep forcing, keep wrestling against something they can't control. And you know what happens to them? They break. Not all at once, no, piece by piece, until one day they wake up and realize they've spent their entire lives gripping something that was never real to begin with. And by then, well, it's too late to start over. People talk a lot about faith. Oh, they love that word. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Faith. So simple, so easy, like a little magic trick. They throw it around like loose change, tossing it into their conversations whenever it sounds good. Just have faith, believe, trust. But here's the thing, most people, they don't actually have faith. No. What they have is a backup plan, a safety net, a way out in case things don't go their way. See, real faith, real trust doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't come with, but if this doesn't work, then I'll just do that instead. No escape routes, no secret parachutes hidden under the seat, just the leap, the jump, the fall, and that terrifies people. Because nobody wants to fall. Nobody wants to let go of control, to walk straight into the unknown with no map, no guarantee, no proof that everything's going to work out the way they want. So what do? They fake it. They say the words, they act like they believe, but deep down, they're still holding on, still keeping one foot in the boat while pretending to step out on the water. They want the miracle without the risk. They want the reward without the sacrifice. But that's not how this works. That's not trust. Negotiation. That's fear. And fear, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It disguises itself so well, wears a lot of masks. Sometimes it looks like wisdom. I'm just being responsible. Sometimes it looks like patience. I'm just waiting for the right time. But in the end, it's all the same. It's hesitation, it's delay, it's the slow, quiet death of every opportunity they were meant to take. Because, the moments pass, the doors close, the chances slip right through their fingers while they're standing there waiting for some kind of perfect confirmation before they move. But real trust, it moves first. It doesn't wait for proof. It doesn't demand a sign. It walks straight into the unknown, eyes open, hands empty, nothing to hold on to except a voice that said, go. And when everything starts shaking, when the ground feels unsteady, when everything in them screams to turn back, that's when faith is tested. That's when you see who really believes and who was just saying the words because they sounded good. Because trust, it's not a feeling. It's not warm, it's not fuzzy, it's not some little comforting blanket you wrap around yourself when life gets tough. No. Trust is raw. It's terrifying. It's standing in the middle of the storm with nothing but a whisper telling you to stay put when every instinct is telling you to run. It's standing on the edge of the cliff and jumping before you see the net. And most people, they won't do it. They can't do it. Because trust means surrender. And surrender, that means giving up control. But here's the punchline. They never had control to begin with. They just thought they did, thought they were in charge, thought they had it all figured out. But life has a way of showing them otherwise. Sooner or later, the things they were holding on to so tightly start slipping away. The job, the money, the relationships, the plans. And that's when they panic. That's when they realize they were never really in control, just balancing on a thread, hoping it wouldn't snap. And for some of them, that's when they finally get it. That's when they stop trying to grip what was never theirs to hold. That's when they stop faking trust and actually live it. And those are the ones who see what others never will. Because they jumped, because they let go, because they finally stopped pretending to believe and actually did